It's time for Measure Twice.
Welcome to Measure Twice. I'm Rob Perugini, along with Chris Kramer from C. Kramer Interiors and Joel Graber from Graber Custom Remodeling. This is the show that helps you envision your home's potential, and you're listening to us on Michiana's News Talk 95.3 MNC. We are brought to you in part by Leatherman Supply. Everything windows, doors, cabinets, and countertops, with the showroom now open in Granger next to C. Kramer Interiors and Hoosier Hardwood Floors, Michiana's trusted and valued experts on hardwood floors. You can visit them at HoosierHardwoodFloors.com, and you should today, right? Like just after the show. And then the next thing you do is just drive by the showroom. It's a really great showroom, though. What is that, on 33? What is that?
Yeah,
33. 33 in Goshen. It's pretty magnificent. It's kind of cool that they have all that. I think it's like the Wizard of Oz when you go in there, because it's like flooring, but there's no yellow brick in there.
No, there's not.
But you can really actually see the flooring on the floor.
Yeah.
Which is cool. And like walk on it and bounce a basketball or whatever.
If you really want to.
If you wanted to. Only if you want. They don't force that. But really good showroom. I don't want to go on and on, but Halsey Tiles right there too. You can go check it out if you wanted. But let's see.
And we highly recommend it.
We do. Yeah,
you should want to.
Yeah, they're on the good. I don't know what Chris is looking at over there, but it distracted.
It's hilarious.
He's. What are you memeing over there?
Yeah, yes.
Oh my goodness! It's like we're in high school. Chris, did you bring enough gum for everybody? That's not a thing anymore, is it?
Gum?
No, like you can chew gum in school now. Right?
I have no idea.
I don't. I'm assuming based on the way things are.
I haven't been in school since the 70s, so.
Oh. Which 1970s, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I gotcha. You walked into that one. All right. So we're going to see the vein in his forehead in a second, and then he's going to come at me like a spider monkey. This week's show is kind of like, you think that there's not a lot to talk about this subject until you start talking about it, and then you realize, like, we could do a month-long series on this. And I'm talking about cabinets, because there are so many options for kitchen cabinets and bathroom cabinets and mudroom cabinets, and there's cabinets for every nook and cranny in your house, don't you think? I mean, like,
yeah,
I'm leaving out a room.
Living room, you can have built-in cabinets in the living room.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah. Bookshelves and bookcases.
Right, I guess they're cabinets. They're built in.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
How do you... So that's kind of where the ultra-custom cabinet, like the most custom, because I think people throw around the word custom. And one thing I've learned being on the show for a decade and some is that the word custom is thrown around a lot.
That's true.
And there's levels of custom. And that's kind of, I think, where people get a little bit confused. And I think that the industry, like the cabinet industry, kind of loses a little bit of credibility because that word custom, we don't know. It's become a marketing term, not an industry term.
So is the word quality.
That's
so
true.
is the word quality, right? It's almost like when you see quality, the word quality, you think the opposite, because they're just using it. You know, what is the adage when a used car salesman says, "Trust me"? That's the moment trust should stop.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not saying that they're good people, love their mamas, whatever. But right, that's kind of, and custom, I think, is getting there. I hear the word custom, I'm like, well, how custom? Out of 100% custom, what percentage of custom are you? That's kind of where I'm at. I'm jaded, in other words.
20%. Just 20%.
But I bet
the rest I'm stock.
Chris, I bet you, he's laughing, but I bet you see companies that it's like, this is only 20% custom.
Nope.
You don't see that?
Mm-mm.
So in your world.
Only 20% custom.
Well, but, okay, so what if they're mass producing the box?
Well, there's custom and there's not custom.
Right. It's either custom or not custom.
I don't think so.
You don't think so?
I don't.
There's custom, semi-custom, and stock.
But that's more than custom or not
for cabinetry.
Custom. For cabinetry.
Semi-custom is you have choices but like they have certain box sizes. You're not going to get anything different. Like in a custom, so if it's a custom kitchen, the cabinets fit the space that's there. So they'll be built. You might get a cabinet that's 37 inches.
Right.
And then that cabinet has whatever features in it you want. As opposed to semi-custom is, they have, I don't know, 24, 30, 32, 36, 40.
Yeah, they're done in increments.
Something like that. And then you have a couple of options with that as far as what you can do with that. Like in it, how the doors and drawers on it, color, door panel. But it's all within what is offered by that manufacturer.
And it's not designed to fit your space 100%. So you take the increments that they offer and make them work. Sometimes that's why you have filler strips and things of that nature to fill gaps where you're short because you don't.
Because they're not building it exactly.
They're not building it exactly to your exact specifications.
And generally when you see that, it's hard to tell because there's filler strips that kind of blend in. And
right.
Yeah, they're supposed to look like, it's not a bad look.
Yeah.
Right.
It's just not maximizing the space.
And I would imagine, like, okay, so if we're talking about space, the final frontier, for all you old people, that's from Star Trek. Or
young people.
Or young, yeah, right. But if you're talking about sheer space, if we look at like a custom for space, meaning this is measured and fit to order your space, right? Then I would imagine like the door sizes might change a little because the openings might have to change a little, or are the openings standard all the time? No, that's the things that would change, right? Some of the because it's got to fit. So you might have a door that's not a standard size door. It's a little different because it fits the space. Is that what you're trying to get across? Like say things are different.
It's going to be
relative to the space that it's going in. And then there's not custom, or is it semi-custom, where they have, look, we have 36, 32, 28 cabinets, right? And then we can make it look like it's just fluid.
Right.
But they're set. And those guys or gals are pre-manufacturing those boxes. Is that what you're saying?
Correct.
Yep.
So somewhere there's just a person who just all day just makes those things.
Yep.
And then
in some of the semi-custom, you get choice of box. Like, for example, this is a solid wood box. This one is particle board with,
quality levels.
With the wood front. So there's different quality levels in semi-custom as well.
Okay.
Again, quality.
Yeah.
But that's the honest
Proper
use of
term.
of quality, meaning you're there. I think that's the right.
Yeah, and some people, is what's better. Well, obviously the solid wood is far superior to particle board.
Right.
But there's a price difference for that reason.
And some people might say, well, I never, ever, ever really see the back, so why do I care? Why do I care if the inside is wood? And that's a personal preference, I would think. Joel was like, man, that's inferior. No, I'm just kidding. But
there are other issues that you run into. Okay, well, one, if it ever sees water, those boxes will
it's done.
Yeah, they'll be worthless. But also for your drawer pulls, other parts that if you have shelves, things like that it does not hold up over time well. So screws will pull out or get and then you can't
put them back
in. And
yeah.
So
Anybody
those are some of the issues that you run into.
In particle board knows.
You drop particle board, it'll just shear the. If you have a box, then you drop it, and the sides of the front maybe be wood against the particle board sides. You drop that, it shears, it'll split that, and you'll never be able to repair it.
Yeah, and there are some things you need to get ahead of if you're getting particle board, you probably need to think about also it dries out over time. Over time, it becomes brittle.
Mm-hmm.
And it just does. And generally, they're in a super dry place. So you generally, right, if your pots and pans aren't wet, generally. So there are things that are real and actual, but not everybody can afford to throw wood everywhere.
Yep.
And that's a way to kind of get around it. When we come back, though, let's talk about a little bit more of this, like, customizations that are available in cabinetry in your home. This is Measure Twice. Welcome back to Measure Twice. I'm Rob Perugini, along with Joel Graber from Graber Custom Remodeling and Chris Kramer from C. Kramer Interiors. This is the show that helps you envision your home's potential. And you're listening to us on Michiana's News Talk 95.3 MNC. We're brought to you in part by Leatherman Supply. Everything windows, doors, cabinets, and countertops, with the showroom now open in Granger right next to C. Kramer Interiors. And Hoosier Hardwood Floors, Michiana's trusted and valued experts on hardwood floors. You can visit them at HoosierHardwoodFloors.com. And I look at Hoosier Hardwood Floors, and I'm not trying to over talk the sponsor. It just fits today, really. But I look at Hoosier Hardwood Floors as specialists. You hurt your foot, you go to the podiatrist. You've got a joint problem, you go to a orthopedic. You know, I'm likening it to the medical. If you got a floor problem, you go to a specialist. If you have a cabinet problem, you go to a cabinet person, or, you know, your contractor or whatever does. But that's who's doing it. You know, it's like it's a specialty, but it's important because they think of things and they just know things from being in that field, right? That it's important to know. You know, I'm sure there's things that I don't know about that a cabinet person, when they measure, or somebody who's dealing with cabinets or looking at cabinets, they have an idea of how things are going to go down that a homeowner just doesn't.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, but we were talking about the customization, but it just dawned on me, like, man, they're a cabinet person. That's like the old-fashioned carpenter, right? Like a cabinet maker they're considered craftspeople, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
I mean, if they're making them by hand. How many handmade cabinets get installed, in your opinion? Like, out of 100% of cabinets, how many of them are like that custom? Like somebody's making the cabinet.
A lot.
For us?
Yeah.
95%.
95% are completely custom. Completely custom.
Might even be a little closer to 100.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that's on the higher end, right?
I mean, the times that you don't see, like, you'll see where people will say, you know, it doesn't have to be that, as like maybe like a kitchenette in a basement or something.
Or a laundry room.
Room.
You may not want to put custom in a laundry room per se, just because it's the laundry room.
Not necessary, right?
But most of the time, bathrooms, kitchens are all pretty much custom. And just because we're using the word custom, there are a lot of custom cabinet companies out there. A lot of them. You use one, I can think of a dozen off the top of my hand.
Well, you just drive through, like, anywhere that there's Amish, and you'll hit like 30 of them with a stone.
Yep.
Right. I mean, that's kind of like where they reside. Like, it's the. I don't know why Amish. I mean, I don't know why that's the Amish part. I don't understand how how that happened, but I guess because they work with their hands, or I don't know. But I don't want to.
More, yeah.
Yeah.
So.
Do
They're not all the same.
No. Sure, I would guarantee, right, within...
But I guess my point to that is there's a lot of custom cabinet companies out there. They're not all equal. So if you're looking for custom, it's out there, and you don't have to, break the bank necessarily, because there's some that are more reasonably priced.
And we're going to do the old Bill Clinton over-defined definition.
What is is?
Type thing. Yeah, what does is mean? Reasonable is a word that is so subjective. It's like, for lack of a better term, because That's on a scale, reasonable. Yeah. But I think, Chris, what you're saying is like there's prices vary in there.
Yes, prices vary.
And there are probably some high-quality cabinets that are less expensive and pretty good in their quality.
They're more than pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
because I mean, I'm just thinking of what we run into as far as custom, because there are companies out there that we prefer to work with, but their price structures they're not for everybody because they're really high end. But you can get something equally as nice, or for a lower price point and still be custom.
Right. And it's out there because
it's out there.
There's a lot of people doing it because there's a lot of demand for it, frankly.
Right. Yeah.
Right? It's not like there's a lot of people doing it because it's easy.
Right.
Right.
There's a lot of people doing it because we probably still need more people doing it. You know? Maybe not. I don't know. Joel just looked away like, I think we're at
I had to think about that.
I know. It's like, we got quite a few. I can name several, but.
Yeah.
Right. And so when we go back to that word custom, right, do the totally custom cabinet makers, do they also carry a line that is less custom?
No.
Not really. Like their niche is custom. So
that's it.
They're not.
Because it's a waste of time for them to pre to mass build.
Because they'll say, well, I can build that for X dollars, And
why build it ahead of time?
Yeah, why mess with that?
Exactly. Mm-hmm. Okay.
Because I can build it for this price, and you're paying this price, so I'm pretty competitive.
So for the install part, Joel, are custom cabinets then kind of easier to work with because they're just kind of made to order when you're installing them?
I guess it just depends on the kitchen.
But I mean,
really?
To me, it seems reasonable that if somebody measured it, built it, it should fit like a glove.
All cabinets installing, once you know how to really install cabinets, put them together, make it look nice, do the trimming, the things that, keep them to the wall, and then,
right.
Have them straight and plumb and square and all that. It doesn't matter if it's what it is.
I would imagine
you can do it once you get good at it, you're good at it. The part that's hard is the walls, the floor.
Well, that's just going to say the burglar is that no wall is immaculate.
Yeah. There's no perfect wall.
Yeah, it's just they're all wavy, right? I mean, even brand new sheetrock can be wavy a little, right?
It can just be slightly, floors will be a little bit out of level depending on your joists. I mean, there's just all kinds of things that you have to deal with.
That's why the shim exists, I guess.
Exactly.
So how do you hide that? How do you
trim
countertops? That's how you kind of blend it in so that it's not so, noticeable that nothing is perfect. And everybody has to understand it's not perfect. But I think what we're talking about is that imperfection that your eye can't look away from. Like, it's like, oh, look at that. Right? Chris, you've turned me on to that. I can't watch HGTV because I look in every corner.
Once you see it, you don't unsee it.
You don't unsee it. It's there forever. So that's the trick. Do you install them and then step back and look? Or is it something that you're like, this wall is definitely wavy, we need to get ahead of it?
Oh, no, everything. You figure that out to begin with.
I see.
He just cuts the cabinet around the wave.
Yep.
Just kidding.
Yep. No, you get your levels, lasers.
The lasers.
Everything, straight edges, checking the floor, the walls.
Right.
How everything looks.
I'm assuming older houses pose like the biggest challenge.
Oh, yeah.
Because the new house,
a house is a house.
It's not plaster, in other words, because plaster's got to be an adventure, probably. Right?
Yeah, plaster's always an adventure.
But you're right. I think trim finishes things in a cool way. Like,
if it's done right.
Yeah. Joel always says that.
But trim was designed. Trim was designed to give you to hide those imperfections and to give you a finished look.
Yeah.
Whether it's a base trim case, door casings, window casings, it's all designed to hide.
I mean, this is not a DIY show, right? Not that we're against it. We just don't really talk about it. But let me just tell you, it sounds to me like if you want to be a great DIYer, learn trim because everything will look finished.
Without
what's
it,
going on behind there, nobody knows.
Yep. Without it, it hides the wall to the floor seam, and it's all designed to hide.
And I think
finish it.
A good cabinet gives you that, that finished feel. We always talk about that. Like you walk in and it's like,
oh, this is so pretty. What a beautiful kitchen.
Yeah, and it's like it's because it's finished.
What a beautiful bathroom. These cabinets are gorgeous. I mean, you hear it all the time.
It's a noticeable thing.
Yeah.
That is like, it's noticeable. And I think you want them to be noticeable, right? It's one of those things that you don't want to disappear into the
that's what makes the space. I mean, think about it. You walk into a kitchen and it's like, oh, I love your floors. I mean, your cabinets are beautiful.
Yeah, that's like it's a really prominent.
And then you go, oh, and your countertops. It's the cabinets first,
and then the levels of you always talk about your eye levels,
right? Your eye should, when you walk in, it should encompass the whole space, and then you're like, oh, this kitchen's beautiful. Oh, look at those cabinets, and then then it goes.
It starts like the mass space, then works the cabinets, then the countertop, and then your refrigerator or floors, or
your appliances or whatever. Yeah, light fixtures, all of that.
When we come back, let's talk material. When we come back, this is Measure Twice. Welcome back to Measure Twice. I'm Rob Perugini, along with Chris Kramer from C. Kramer Interiors and Joel Graber from Graber Custom Remodeling. This is the show that helps you see your home's potential. I'm trying to slow down because I'm halfway through my coffee.
Yeah.
And you're listening to us on Michiana's News Talk 95.3. You're listening to Measure Twice, and we're sponsored in part by Leatherman Supply. Everything windows, doors, cabinets, and countertops, with the showroom now open in Granger right next to C. Kramer Interiors and Hoosier Hardwood Floors, Michiana's trusted and valued experts on hardwood floors. You can visit them at HoosierHardwoodFloors.com. No joke. This segment, every week, you'll notice I have to force myself to slow down. It's this high-octane coffee that we're supplied. Just strung out by the third segment. Man,
I'm chill, man.
He is. Chris is just...
I'm just chill.
Yeah.
Always.
He's like a reggae singer. Everything's Irie. Right? Everything's Irie. We don't... No problem, man.
I'm not bouncing off my chair yet.
Not yet. We haven't said anything that offends your sensibilities, but Joel and I try to every week. We'll get there. I promise. But we're talking about cabinets, and we're kind of stuck on the customness of cabinets and things like that. We tend to talk about custom as the fit, but what about the custom and the finish part? Like what they actually look like, the color and all of that. And we can get right into it, but let's just start with Chris. When you're looking at when you're designing the kitchen and you're putting it together, what do the cabinets, the color of the cabinet, does it dictate the floor? Or what dictates the palette that you're using? Where does it start? I guess where do you start with?
Depends on what you're working with. If it's new construction, cabinetry, and then you kind of pick your floor
from there. If you're keeping the floor, if there's a floor
if there's a floor that's already there existing, that's staying, we're not refinishing or whatever, then we work from the floor to the cabinet,
to the countertop, to the poles. Hardware, sorry. Hey, I'm not the expert in this room. But yeah, then to the hardware, then to, everything from there. That's kind of the order.
Right.
And I would think that many people that are listening are in a house that's not a new construction.
Right.
So if you're gutting your kitchen, that's similar to new construction.
Mm-hmm.
So,
but there's a lot to consider when you're doing a kitchen, or if it's a remodel, whether it's a remodel or a new construction, there's a lot of detail that you have to look at, from picking out the finishes for the cabinetry. Are we painting? Are we staining? What wood species are we going to use? What's going to be the most durable for the space? Are we using quartz? Are we using granite? Are we using Formica, which we don't really do much anymore?
Don't do a lot of Formica. Although
laundry rooms we do sometimes just to stay within a budget. But I've got crown molding in my room. If I paint my cabinets, what do I do? Well, so there's a lot of determinations.
Joel, are there cabinet materials that you can't paint over? Or Chris?
You shouldn't paint over.
Well, okay. You can paint anything.
Yeah.
But should you, I guess, is what that's.
If you're painting cabinets, the wood species that you like to use would either be birch or maple.
Yeah.
For paint. Because it's the most stable and there's very little grain. So no grain comes through the paint.
Oh, okay.
So you get the really nice, smooth finish.
Maple and
birch. Birch usually, and because it's a more cost effective and it takes the paint better. Maple does work as well, but
maple seems expensive to paint.
I don't think it's any more than there's. It's interesting. It always changes.
Yeah, it constantly is changing.
The fluctuate you like
there's different
the prices
types
you
of
mean
maple. There's hard maple and soft maple.
Which one are we talking about for painting? Hard
I think it's hard, isn't it? I think it's hard maple because it's more stable.
Right.
But I guess it depends on the trends too. Like, for a while everybody was using cherry, so cherry prices were really high. Now very few people are using cherry, so it's less expensive than maple. So it
just where the
quarter sawn oak
goes.
At one point was astronomical, but that's kind of died down, and now another walnut seems to be very popular right now. So trends tend to drive the price. Right.
So that's kind of, and birch is a less expensive wood in general, generally less expensive because it grows fast.
It's more available and like I said, it's usually used for the painting. You can stain birch, but
stain is also another way to get a kind of like maybe pick a less expensive wood, but make it look better, or does it just start to equal the same price as if you had just got the wood you wanted?
Actually, painting is more expensive than staining.
Painting is more.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Really? Mm-hmm. What are some cases where what are some cases that you would paint then? Paint seems less optimal to me, but I guess
most kitchens
that's not
are
true, right?
Kitchens.
Yeah, I was going to say I would say 95%
are painted.
Because you can choose whatever color you want. It tends to be a little bit cleaner looking and less. It doesn't date itself as much as a stain can, because stains go in waves of color. Right now, back in the day, red undertones were prevalent. Now nobody wants red undertones.
Now it dates the
it dates the stain.
If you've stained wood, can you paint it, or is it over?
Yeah,
you can paint that.
So you can.
There's a process, and there's the paint for it.
Yeah. And if you paint a kitchen and you're keeping it more into the neutral tones, those tend to be around forever, essentially. And it's either easier to work around.
So you're painting and then you're just repainting.
A lot of times you don't have to.
You don't have to. If you've painted if your kitchen's white or an off-white, there's no reason that unless the paint starts flaking off over the years of use.
If there's damage or nicks, or
then you can touch that up. But ultimately, you can keep that kitchen white forever and change your wall color and everything around it. And
it's a classic. Gotcha. It's a classic.
I've seen a lot of successful repainting of cabinets. A lot.
I was always against it until, man, I tell you what, some of these companies out there you would never know that it was stained.
I've seen some really remarkable and it just it makes the whole kitchen. Now kitchen,
bathroom, anywhere you have cabinets.
Really, neat and very custom looking. It's just, you get your get that scheme that you're looking for in there. It's like really cool. And I feel like that's definitely a professional's job, because I will say on the other end, man, you really need to be a virtuoso painter to get that done.
For it to look.
On your own, you bet. I would think I would practice in the garage on some.
I wouldn't even attempt my own.
No.
Because you cannot.
I'd have brush marks.
I would too.
Rollers or whatever. Yeah.
There's only one person I can think of that did it on her own, and it's magnificent. She's an artist.
There you go.
I mean, that's what her job is.
Yep.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay,
that's not fair.
That's not fair. That's a now she's a ceramic artist. She doesn't
matter,
but she has that.
She knows.
She just has that, and it's all smooth and perfect, and didn't really take her that long. You know, those people that we all look at and be like, "You're an alien."
But I think anymore we're seeing a lot of two-tone kitchens, stain and paint combined.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, interesting.
Like you might paint the upper cabinets, but your lower cabinets are stained, or you might have a bank of cabinets on one side that's stained and everything else is painted. So that's kind of a trend right now, but paint is almost 100% of what we do.
Gotcha. In my mind, I'm like, oh, wood. Wood color is like, but you're right. Now that I think about it, I'm like, yeah, almost all of them are painted cabinets. Like, I'm trying to think, I'm like, just a handful of not that it looks bad, but I'm just thinking that it's cool. I think there's some bold statements in wood that.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, Chris had talked about walnut.
Right.
You do walnut. Oh,
it's so beautiful.
It is beautiful. And they have a finishing process for it now where, you can put on this top coat that it almost doesn't even look like it has a top coat. It looks like the natural wood. It's fantastic. It's beautiful.
Right.
But that's going to be a very expensive kitchen.
Yeah.
Well, when we come back, let's unpack that just a little bit, because I don't know if we have enough time to unpack that. And I wanted to talk about species. Not the movie Species, but the tree. When we come back, this is Measure Twice. Welcome back to Measure Twice. I'm Rob Perugini, along with Joel Graber from Graber Customer Modeling and Chris Kramer from C. Kramer Interiors. This is the show that helps you envision your home's potential. And you're listening to us on Miss Shanna's News Talk 95.3 MNC. And we're brought to you in part by Leatherman Supply. Everything windows, doors, cabinets, and countertops. And a showroom now open in Granger next to C. Kramer Interiors and Hoosier Hardwood Floors. Miss Shanna's trusted and valued experts on hardwood floors. You can visit them at HoosierHardwoodFloors.com. We're talking about the cabinets, and we're kind of focusing on the kitchen, but basically what we're saying about the kitchen generally holds true with most other rooms that we're talking about, aside from maybe a mud room that might have less of a wood appearance and more of a, you don't need to throw all that money maybe at that room particularly. But you can, if you wanted to. There's something that you guys said off air that I had to scold you and say save it for the show. But you had said you were really into this style. I kind of missed it. You were really into.
I love riffs on oak.
Riffs on. So somebody take a minute and explain what riffs on means.
Riffs on is the way that the oak was cut, and the grain is all straight on it. On oak you get the cathedral pattern,
wavy.
Yeah, and on quarter sawn oak you get the tiger pattern. Rift sawn it's cut in such a way that, and I mean, I think I believe rift sawn started off as the scrap.
I was just gonna say it was the waste,
but it's all straight up and down. It's all, the grain runs up and down straight. You don't get any really any waviness to it, or it has a very distinct look. If you see it, you know it.
Yes, and edge is a little more modern.
Yeah.
So,
but it's actually an interesting grain pattern. It's not like when you say just straight up and down, it sounds boring, but
it's beautiful.
It is beautiful.
Oh, I see what you're saying. It is straight up and down. It is literally like pinstripes.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Gorgeous. It is just absolutely clean, easy, simple. I could see if you're doing something with a modern kitchen, that would be absolutely gorgeous with slab front cabinet doors.
Yeah. I guarantee if you because I just Googled it, that's why I was kind of distant for a second. I was like, okay, it is. Yeah, it's very orderly looking.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how else to put it, but it is pretty cool.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
So if you have like a something sawn wood, you wouldn't paint that, right?
No. 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 The beauty of rift sawn, quarter sawn is the grain.
Yeah.
You're paying for that look, that grain. You would not
rift
paint
sawn
that.
Is one of the most expensive that you're going to get.
Yes.
Because
of how it's cut.
There's probably a lot of scrap involved.
You just don't get much out of it.
Right. You're using very specific portion of the wood. But it is neat, and I guarantee you've seen it. And I find that in the show, because I'm a listener too. You know, I'm sitting here with these guys that know what they're talking about. And now I notice it, and I see it, and I'm like, oh, that's rift sawn. That's quarter sawn. That's, I don't know, whatever, regular sawn. I don't know. Medium sawn. I don't know. It's not a thing. But when you said 95, what is it?
Plain sawn.
Plain sawn. Is that really the term, or are you just placating me here? When you said 95% of your kitchens are painted, that's because you're going for an aesthetic look and fit.
Right.
The other 5% are probably something like this, then quarter sawn, like something that's
or cherry.
It's still a very specific look that you're going for.
Like cherry is something we don't paint, we stain.
And if you were going to redo your kitchen and you were going to go someplace else, right? You'd have to paint them then, right? You would have to, or would you take them off, sell them, and put a different cabinet?
Well, if you have
like
a walnut or a rift sawn, or you work around that.
You work around that's like heirloom type cabinet.
Yeah.
Okay. Because
I would not paint walnut because you're paying a premium for the
and then covering it.
Yeah, you're paying a premium for the graining and the tone of the wood.
And the craftsmanship it takes to accomplish that it's funny when we talk about these things, I'm like, well, there's craftsmanship in making the cabinet. That's important and you have to be precise. And I'm like, wow, but when you get like quarter sawn, or I guess in this case rift sawn, the craftsmanship goes even one step further. So the person who's actually sawing the wood is a craftsman, and then it moves on. And I think we tend to look at cost and forget, like, well, you're buying something that's more important, more rich and feel.
Elevates the space.
Elevate. I knew that you would have the word for it. I couldn't think of it. It's the elevate. And in that case, people come in and they're just kind of mesmerized over the wood. Haven't you seen that where people come in and they're just like, we tend to talk about it with floors a lot, or they're like, whoa. Mm-hmm.
That's what happens when I see rift sawn.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
You're just...
It's like, oh, gosh, this is so beautiful.
Just mesmerized.
It's mesmerizing to me.
Yeah. I could see that in the what I've seen, and then...
And I love walnut. Just the grain of walnut is so rich.
Now, on the rift sawn, do you lose some of the walnut
grain? You don't rift sawn walnut.
Okay, that's what I was going to say. I don't think you would do that with
No. Rift sawn is oak typically, and then walnut's just walnut.
Walnut is definitely... That's my favorite, too. It's one of the first things, woods I could identify. Species, if you will.
The species of the tree.
So, do cabinets do they get beat up the same? They don't get beat up the same way as like a floor. So you can
not
get softer
wood.
Well, especially now with like the soft close mechanisms on as far as hinges and glides, that helps.
With the wear and tear.
That helps with the wear and tear a great
What the thing I've noticed with like some of the softer woods, like cherry softer, it's a hardwood, but it's a softer hardwood. Woods like that if you take pots and pans out and you accidentally bump the side of your cabinet, then it'll ding it.
It'll ding like on the way in generally,
in or out. So
if you're using your kitchen, it's gonna have. It's a living space.
Right, you're living in it. It is.
So it's developing character.
Yeah,
it's not. You're right. It's just making it look like you used it, and it's one of those things where we talk about this all the time. This is not a throwaway space. Your kitchen is a high functioning area.
Probably the most functioning spot in the house.
Yeah, so it's going to get some use. Right? And
all the time.
And we tend to overanalyze countertops for that. But your cabinets are also just open, close, open, close, open, close. Drawers, open, close, and that's kind of a
spills things. You're cooking, so there's things that so the finish of the cabinet is important as well.
Is there a finish that what's the most durable finish? Is there such a thing as that? A wipeable finish, I guess is what I'm looking at.
They're all wipeable, but I know that, like, for example, a painted finish, there's different levels of quality of paint, but some companies will use a catalyzed paint so that it resists scratching and chipping, and is far more durable in the long run.
Yeah, you can chemically stain some paints when you use certain cleaners. I don't know the list of them, but for sure, you spray and it's too late. As soon as you sprayed it, now you'll be able to see those spray marks forever. Mm-hmm. And they're usually the harsher, more commercial style. Generally, if you're using like household cleaner, you don't run into that, but not, you just want to be careful. If you're having your cabinets painted, you might want to ask the person painting, is there any restriction? Anybody who's used a Clorox wipe on something, that mistake is not erasable. It's a permanent scar, and generally that's on furniture. But I've seen it. Seen somebody take like a $10,000 credenza and put a giant swipe on it, like somebody with a Clorox wipe. Woof. Yeah, be careful with this. And thanks for listening, and thanks Corinne and Paul for listening. This is Measure Twice.
Podcasts by Federated Media.